Okay, folks, we always want to put on our safety gear. We've got a piece of cherry on the lathe here, and we're putting a tenon on it now so we can go ahead and turn it around and put it in a chuck. Want to make sure we get that dovetail just right because these are dovetail jaws on this chuck. Using a 1-inch skew to get that done. Hello folks, I'm Dean with Dean's Woodworking. Welcome to the shop. Today we're going to turn a bell that just happens to be an ornament. Cherry in the chuck, and now we are starting to go ahead and get it round. Facing off the end, and one more pass to get it sort of round. Here we're going to go ahead and make a V-cut and start shaping our bell. As we'll come in with the 1-inch skew, we can pull quite a bit of wood off in a hurry and go ahead and get that basic outside shape before we start our hollowing. The other benefit of a skew is it leaves such a nice smooth finish that you eliminate a lot of the sanding. Now we're set up and we're hollowing, and we started out here with a 1/2-inch spindle gouge, and we discover real quick that that may be just a little bit bigger than what we want, so we switch over to a 3/8 gouge right here. Again, a 3/8 spindle gouge, and you'll notice that will drill into that wood almost like a drill bit. Once we get in there, then we're just pushing down, pulling out, and really takes that wood out in a huge hurry. The one thing you do have to be careful with here is not going too deep and making the inside bigger than the outside. Now we're coming back in and we're starting to finesse that outside shape. Sometimes with those curves you can really do a better job with the spindle gouge than you can a skew unless you're really practiced with the skew. So now we're going to sand, and on this project we started out with 80 and sanded the inside and outside from 80 to 320. Doesn't take a whole lot of sanding, and probably didn't have to start out with 80, but we did. Here we are sanding on the inside, doing the same thing, 80 through 320. Flashlight, you can tell it's a little thin right there, and here we're coming back in and just getting ready to put a little button on the top of that ornament so that we have a place to put our little eye to hang it. Here's where we're kind of turning that into a bead. Again, 3/8 spindle gouge. Really my favorite spindle gouge. And sanding that area one more time. Drilling a hole up in the bottom so we have a place to attach our clapper. And now we're parting it off with a skew. Nice thing about parting one off with a skew like this is you have very little work to do once it's parted off. Now we're going to go ahead and start on a second bell. We're going to do this one just a little bit different shape. So you'll see as we come in here, this time we're doing the initial shaping with the 3/8 inch spindle gouge. I've recently had some people ask me, do you have to have a skew to do that, or do you have to have this to do that, or something else? Folks, just about any turning job that you do, you have multiple choices, so don't feel like you have to have a skew or a certain size spindle gouge or whatever to do a particular project. It's just not true. If you have any tools at all, I can pretty much guarantee that you have something that will work. Here we are, we've hollowed out the inside again, and we're going back and just putting a little finer shape on that outside. You'll notice this bell is a little bit different shape than that other one. I always like to give folks a couple of choices, and sanding again and then putting another hole up in there for our clapper. Again, we're removing the majority of the wood so that we can go ahead and put that little bead on the top of this one as well. Again, that bead's there primarily for looks and to have a place to put the hanger. And as you can see, this little project goes really fast, and that's even with me taking the time to do the video and all that, which you may not believe it, but it does take about twice as long to do a project when you're videoing it as it does when you are just turning it in your shop without trying to film it or adjust camera angles or any of that stuff. So again, we brought this down with the parting tool, and now we've got that 3/8 inch spindle gouge in there to make the bead at the top. And again, we're going to just hit it with some sandpaper. I believe here we just used 220 and 320 and then came in and parted it off. Once again, that little piece right up at the top is so small. You hit it and a half a dozen licks across some 150 sandpaper and it is smooth. Let's go ahead and straighten off that end. Let's see, we've got two bells here to make clappers for. One of them's about like so. Okay, we're going to drill a little hole right through the middle of this. That's so we can put a little wire or a little eye or something in there to hold it. And then we're going to turn our clapper. We don't want it real big on this ornament. Remember when I said turn the lathe speed down when you're sanding? Well, I didn't. And that got hot enough to get my attention that quick. And we'll just park this booger off. Let's go right in from that angle. We will mount that up in this using a wire going into this and an eye hook going into that. Okay, so without going to the super tiny little drill bits I've got that 1/16 bit, and I just really drill much of a hole. I just kind of started one here. So the whole thought process on doing that is to make it to where I can start these tiny little eyes. Got enough here to do both ornaments. So I'm going to double the wire and give it a little bit of a twist. And then what we will do is we will rotate that around the little clapper that we turned. Once we have that done, we'll take another one of these little eyes and thread onto that, like so. So now we can hold that loop so it doesn't come loose, and we'll just twist this wire, because this is what's going to go down inside the clapper. We'll once again take our super glue and we're going to coat this little wire. Then we're going to take and put that right in there. Give that a few minutes to set. So now it's time to do the assembly here. You can grab the edge of that. Drop just a little bit of that super glue there. Wouldn't hurt to put just a little bit on the there we go. There, we got that one set in there. And we'll just set it over to the side. Let's take a look at this. We got our eyes in here. So we're going to go ahead and put some fancy little hangers on there. Do the same thing with this one. Folks, we got two little bells that we made on this video. Both of them will make great ornaments on a tree. And I think you've seen what a simple little project this is. And if there's one thing I can almost guarantee you, if you make these and take them to a craft show, they're gonna sell like crazy. I always sell tons of bells. Folks, thank you for watching. Stay safe, stay healthy, and happy turning.